What's going on, Flock? Thanks for your patience. As you can see, it's 20 minutes behind schedule in terms of what I had originally thought for that 5 o'clock start time. But that is Ravens Steelers week, and that is the reality of one man banding. So, with that, welcome inside the channel as always for a little 2.0 live stream. Sarah and I covered a number of things earlier today during our lunch hour, and I certainly will do just as much if not more, because of today's really a Wednesday, if you will, in the NFL cycle. When you play on Saturday, everything's pushed up a week, obviously. So just churned through a ton of press conference nuggets, and we have a lot to discuss over the course of the next hour or so. So without further ado, welcome in. Glad you're here. Tonight's brought to you by my friends at Preston Automotive Group. You can learn more about them in the show notes as a pinned comment in the live chat. The guest lines are also open as well. Pinned comment in the live chat. You can also pop in via that link. So anyway, lots to get to tonight. Please like your video. Please like the video on the way in. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification bell. It is Ravens Steelers, and there's a lot at stake, obviously, when it comes to the AFC North. If Pittsburgh wins on Saturday, and this is, of course, round 2 of the rivalry, Steelers took the first one by a final score of 18-16. And they didn't even have to score a touchdown to win that game, as we all remember. If the Ravens win, obviously it extends their chances at potentially securing an AFC North title for a second consecutive year. There's a lot on the line, and looking at some of the injury statuses, particularly what's going on in Pittsburgh, this is notable. So we're going to get to that in just a bit. Zay Flowers, Marlon Humphrey, Lamar Jackson, Rich Eisen, and a number of other clips will come up as well. And pretty much all of it stems back to Ravens Steelers. And what the reality is that this has been owned, this series, this rivalry. It's been nothing. It hasn't been a rivalry over the last 9 contests. You can even go back further than that. The Steelers have owned this matchup. Pittsburgh has won 8 of the last 9 games versus the Ravens. And yes, they've been all decided by one score, but again, dominated by Mike Tomlin's group. This will be Fox Sports and the A-Team. That's the telecast coming up on Saturday. It's a 4:30 kickoff inside the bank. You know where I'll be pregame with Be More Around Town. You can get your tickets at BeMoreAroundTown.com. I'd love to see you guys out there. Here is the postseason scenarios. With a win over Pittsburgh, the Ravens would pull into a first-place tie in the AFC North, while at least clinching a wild card spot. So you win, and you are absolutely in. They'd have more work to do, obviously, when it comes to the division, but at least you'd book your ticket to January football. Jeff also notes, however, there is a way they could make the playoffs with a loss to Pittsburgh. Miami would have to lose or tie to San Francisco, and the Indianapolis Colts would have to lose or tie to Tennessee. So that's the path to the playoffs, if you will. That's where things stand right now. Obviously, Lamar and company have bigger fish to fry, and that's a fish that they've had a hard time reeling in, if you will. The Pittsburgh Steelers have had their number, partly why this morning, ESPN panel of Jeff Saturday, Dominique Foxworth, Dan Graziano, and Mike Greenberg, 3 of the 4, think the Steelers are going to find a way to win this division. Greeny being the lone warrior who's riding with the Ravens. But again, the message is clear. You win on Sunday and you prevent, obviously, yet another week that the Steelers have to wait to secure the division. You improve to 10-5. You exercise demons in a sense, because there's not a lot of people that feel like Lamar can beat the Steelers. And his track record isn't too kind when looking at not only his performance and performances against Pittsburgh. You also have to add in the fact that he actually hasn't played the Steelers a lot. He's missed a slew of games against the Steelers due to injury and due to circumstance. What do I mean by circumstance? Well, 2 of those games are regular season finales during each of his MVP seasons, where the number 1 top overall seed in the bye were already locked up. So why play him? So when you look at the numbers, they are slightly skewed, but there is no taking away from reality in the facts, and that is that Mike Tomlin and company have had his number, have had the Ravens number, and that does not sit well internally. Just ask the longest tenured defensive player, Marlon Humphrey, who addressed it earlier today at the podium.
Until the last game, but it bothers me when I found out. It was surprising, but no, it's I know the guys in the locker room. We want to win this rivalry, and 8 out of last 9, man. It's not a good number at all. So I think the focus has got to be at a premium this week, and you try to. It's gonna take a lot to get that back on our side, but you wanna be able to beat your rivalry.
So, Marlon, that's not all that he had to say. He talked about today's team meetings, one of which was defense only, and the other which was full team. And he said it got a little spirited as the team showed up. Of course, today was essentially the first day that everybody's in the building coming off the Giants game. And here's what Marlon had to say.
At some point this week, after practice, but that's got to be the message. I feel like in the past, there's been a lot more talk about it. Defensive meeting today was a little fiery. Team meeting was a little fiery, but it's just going to build this week, and it'll get talked about it. I think some people got a taste of it. It's a couple skirmishes in the last game, but no, this is big. This means a lot to a lot of people. It means a lot to me being here for a long time, and if you don't understand, the message will be very clear as the week goes on.
If you don't understand, the message will be very clear as the week goes along. He says he's talking to the team at some point this week, referred to both the defensive and full team meetings as fiery. This is big. This means a lot to a lot of people. It means a lot to me being here for a long time. If you don't understand, the message will be very clear as the week goes on. That is from the longest tenured defensive player on the Baltimore Ravens, who has had a front row seat to far too many shortcomings against the Steelers in recent weeks. And again, you heard and saw the statistic off the top of the show. Pittsburgh has won 8 of the last 9. That is not a rivalry. And I know there have been different circumstances in all those, and I know they've been close with every game decided by one score. But a rivalry is balanced. A rivalry goes both ways. And as of recent times, it's been anything but those two things. It's been unbalanced, and it's gone one way, and that's in Pittsburgh's favor. Zay Flowers gearing up for year 2 against the Steelers and being a part of this rivalry. You better believe he set a tone earlier today when being asked a question about what they do, the Steelers, to cause him and other members of the offense, particularly Lamar, stress.
Well, I think we always have, I feel like turnovers, missed kicks, like stuff like that during the game. So if we do eliminate those, and because we move the ball downfield, I know you see that, right? We move the ball downfield, we get across the 50, you know what I'm saying? So, we just got to take care of the ball, make kicks, and try to put the ball in the end zone.
What do they do you've obviously only played them twice, and you had 7 catches, I think, on 17 targets, and 1 touchdown in there. What did they do that stresses you, that's difficult for you or for receivers in general?
They don't really do nothing that really stresses me, if I'm being honest. It just, you have some games, and it ended up being that game, so we'll figure it out when we get there. This week we got them, so I'm looking forward to that.
Marlon described the team meeting today as fiery. Does it feel different, the Steelers, because it's the Steelers?
Of course, because it's a rival. It's a rival. It's always going to be like that no matter what team got a rival, what rivalry it is. If you got a rival in your division and you ain't going to go out there and want to play soft, you got to make sure everybody fired up and ready to go, make sure everybody got their minds on right, their head locked in. So it's always going to be like that.
Zay Flowers ready to suit up seemingly right now. You heard the reporter. They said, what do they, meaning Pittsburgh, do meaning the Steelers, do that stresses you, that's difficult for you? And Zay interrupts him, cuts him off, and says, nothing. They don't really do nothing that stresses me, if I'm being honest. Zay finished with 2 receptions for 39 yards, a touchdown on 6 targets, and a long reception of 23 yards the first time these two teams played again earlier this year, which went down as a Steelers victory in Pittsburgh, 18-16, in a game that they did not score a touchdown. It was Boswell early and Boswell often. Chris was 6 for 6, their place kicker, a long of 57. It was just an exceptional performance for him. But again, in classic Ravens Steelers fashion, the team that wins doesn't even put a touchdown. I'm not saying that had happened before, but the fact that it happens in Ravens Steelers, of course that happens in Ravens Steelers. You can always count on something funky happening in Ravens Steelers. And far too often, again, in recent times, the Ravens have been on the wrong side of said funk. Now, the good news is something that hadn't been adjusted the last time these two teams met, or maybe had just been adjusted, is Kyle Hamilton and his usage. And my, oh my, Marlon Humphrey spoke glowingly of how Kyle being moved to traditional safety on the back end with his new running mate, Ardarius Washington, has helped rejuvenate Baltimore's once ranked last pass defense. Here's Marlo on number 14.
Just pinpoint one thing, I would say it's putting Kyle back there at safety. I mean, there's been he's just, that guy's just different. His play, obviously, you guys see the play, but the communication, getting guys right. I mean, there's plays that I'm on the field, I get the call, ask Kyle, what do I do in this call? I hear Kyle give somebody else, what do they do in this call? And so he's just as good as a football player is, his smarts, how he keeps the guys calm. He's just a piece you can put in any position, but him going back to safety has seemed to really stabilize everybody else in all their spots, whether it's corners, the community, nickel, community, the backers. Rowe's doing so much, giving the front and everything, but I think Kyle's been able to just help us stabilize in the secondary. And to me, that's kind of been the big thing on the back end. And in the pass rush, those guys, they've come alive as well. A little bit more, kind of cage rush type deals and letting guys win their one-on-one. So it's been really a group effort to get things right. So not trying to give Kyle all the credit, but he deserves a big amount for sure.
Not trying to give Kyle all the credit, but yeah, you just did, and deservedly so, Marlo. Whatever Kyle ends up getting paid by the Ravens, and I assume they will back up the Brinks truck for him, it ain't going to be enough. Number 14 has done everything asked of him and more. And if they end up going to the promised land this year, we will look back at the in-season change made by Zach Orr, made by John Harbaugh, made by the defensive staff, meaning this change, shifting Kyle back to traditional safety, handling back-end duties, handling communication duties, handling the green dot when Roquan went down a few weeks ago. We will look back at that with significance. Because make no mistake about it, there is no coincidence that since week 11, they have taken great strides defensively in all major categories when it comes to pass defense. And that starts with Kyle. Marlon used the word stabilize. I'll use the word rejuvenate. Maybe I'll even go as far as to say saved. Marlon says that guy's just different. Him going back to safety has seemed to really stabilize everybody else in all their spots. He even said that when he gets onto the field, when others get onto the field, they're all looking to Kyle for alignment, Kyle for assignment, Kyle for overall communication. He has streamlined all of that. He has brought a sense of calm to this defense. And again, whatever he ends up earning, it's not going to be enough. I expect him to reset the safety market within the next year or so. And my God, will that be deserving. Marlon went on to say, as you just heard there at the end of that bite, I'm not trying to give Kyle all the credit, but he deserves a big amount for sure. There's no question about that. There's no question. And Ardarius Washington deserves some as well. But because Kyle is such a Swiss Army knife, and because that was even an option, his value, you cannot put a price tag. You can't overstate Kyle Hamilton's importance. The fact that these changes were made on the fly and paid dividends really overnight, it almost feels like. There's such a calmness. And I'm not saying that there haven't been glaring holes since these changes were made. It hasn't been perfect, but they're not dead last. They are not the 32nd ranked passing defense anymore. I'm not sure where they stand going into week 16, but since week 11, since these changes were made, it's undeniable. It's an undeniable energy. It's an undeniable difference. And Kyle Hamilton is at the forefront of it. Again, Ardarius deserves a lot of credit as well. 5'8", $180, plays with a tremendous amount of heart, has a knack for the football. We saw that when he went and got that interception in the second half of Sunday's game in the Meadowlands. We see that when he's going up against guys that are way, way taller, way bigger than him, and just lowering his shoulder and finding a way. He's gritty. He's tough. He's resilient. He's a former undrafted rookie out of TCU. He's fought through injuries, and now he's playing a key role and a complementary role with, dare I say, it's early, but a future Hall of Famer in Kyle Hamilton. That's the way, and that's the kind of football that Kyle is absolutely playing right now, and the Ravens have needed every bit of it. You know, Marlon was really reflective earlier today as well, and he can often get up there at the podium and pontificate and talk and talk and talk, and you don't really know what direction he's headed. But I thought today, reflective Marlon, mature and veteran Marlon was at the podium, and that's been more often than not this year. As I've mentioned a couple times already, he is the longest tenured defensive player on this team. He is somebody that's had a tremendous bounce back season after last year was marred with injuries, and statistically, it wasn't something to write home about when it comes to the standards that All-Pro Marlo has set much throughout his career. And I enjoyed Marlon getting a little reflective, getting a little deep earlier today. Listen to this.
This year has been, I came into it a little bit different than I would say I've ever approached a season. I just, last year with the injuries, it was a lot, mentally. And I kind of just treated this year, I've really tried to treat each day like I think about training camp. I just came into the season thinking, you never really know what's going to happen. And I think the situations we had throughout training camp with guys getting in car wrecks, our coach passing away, I really try to treat every day like it's my last. And I try to treat every practice. So many days in training camp, you wake up, you're not really feeling it. And I journal a lot more, and I basically just write whatever I'm writing, and I write usually just treat today, enjoy today, do what you can. And so I think that's really been able to help me really just enjoy the days to where, obviously you want to stay healthy, you want to play for a long time, but watching games is not very fun, and you think, man, if I could do this. But I really try to, and then Zach Orr being a coach who you just really never know when your last play of football is going to be. And I think that's not a reality that a lot of us think as football players. I think it's not a lot of reality that people think in life. It's just we had people could have been tragic car accidents, a coach passing. There's just so many things you can think about. I'm just very grateful to just wake up today, wake up hopefully tomorrow, the days I get. And it's really helped me. It's helped me just be more calm as a player, just go into it, just enjoy what I can enjoy, control what I can control. And I think that's been the biggest difference, I would say. And also trying to eliminate unknown stress. So I try to think about if I show up to the team plane 10 minutes before we take off, or if I show up an hour, which one would be less stressful? So I actually got to the team train this past weekend before we could even get on the train, which was a first. But I was like, well, this is better than being almost late. So I try to think, what is stressful? So I packed my bag the night before instead of packing it the day of and scrambling. This past game, I had my wife get here early, even though you don't have anything to do, you'll find something to do. So I try that. That's something else I've changed, which has helped. But just really enjoying life. It's been the biggest thing, and it's just so easy here, man. This organization, these coaches, I'm just grateful. But it's all those little things have really helped me just take stress off the body and hope, you put that in and then you can just be able to play more free. And I feel like it's shown up this year.
Look, I know he rambles. He really does. But there was a time when all you would hear from Marlon at the podium or in a podium setting was sort of like goofy, was unserious, right? Was humorous. And that's all great. And that's very much a part of his public personality. And having spoken to him many times in person and both on our show, he has a little bit of both. But what you've seen this year is, again, I just think this maturation, this true full circle moment where he understands what's at stake. He understands what they had at their fingertips last year. And most importantly, he understands his role on this team. And I think Lamar does as well. And so two guys that may not be, the Ed Reed types, the Ray Lewis types when it comes to vocal leaders, that may not come naturally to them. Clearly, both Lamar and Marlon on each side of the ball, respectively, lead by example. And I think you've seen example after example now through the media, through their press conferences, that lead you to believe they have a true understanding, a true appreciation, and a sense of urgency for the moment, for where they find themselves right now. And I think that can become contagious. This is a team that's peaking at the right time. Assuming that Sunday was a moment. I'm not saying it was a moment that will help Lamar's MVP candidacy. It was the Giants. No disrespect to the Giants, but that's one of the they'll probably have the one or the first or second pick in the draft come April. But should they be able to rattle off some wins here, capture the division, grab a home playoff game, and get into the postseason almost being overlooked, that's a position that the Ravens really haven't been in throughout the Lamar era. And when you think about the two signature seasons thus far, both of which resulted in first overall seeds and first round buys, 2019 and 2023, both of which, of course, were his MVP campaigns, what comes to mind is this is uncharted territory for the Ravens. And maybe, just maybe, particularly given their success historically this way, right? When nobody really views them, and I get it, I think we can all agree that on paper, and when they play collectively all three phases, they're really hard to beat. But 5 losses is 5 losses through 15 weeks. And I think because of that, because of some of the issues with the defense, because of Justin Tucker's issues, there's not a lot of belief universally, nationally right now. And that might be a really great place to be if you're the Ravens, because if you get hot at the right time and you snag that wild card spot and maybe you get one home game, or maybe you don't, maybe Pittsburgh wins and you go on the road to play Houston, a team that you're going to see already and be very familiar with because of the Christmas Day matchup. And you played them twice the year prior as well during CJ Stroud's rookie season. Then maybe, just maybe, that allows you to build some momentum that's very different than the momentum that almost has to organically be built the way it had to be last year with the first round bye and sitting starters for the regular season finale. And of course, the same could be said for 2019. I know that a lot of people find that bye to be coveted, and I'm not saying it's not, but it can be really hard to organically build momentum. The Ravens will have to build momentum between now and January 5th if they want a chance to win the division, if they want a chance to ensure that their postseason spot is booked. They are not yet in the postseason. more than likely they will be over the next 3 weeks. You win on Sunday and you're in, but you win on Saturday and you're in, but that's at the very least. They have bigger fish to fry when it comes to capturing this division and entering the postseason on a note of momentum, on a note of confidence, and really, the most importantly, on a note of health. And that's where they stand really, really, really comfortably right now. We're going to get to that in just a bit on the back end. Injury statuses on both sides for Pittsburgh and for Baltimore. I'm glad you guys can be with me tonight. This episode is brought to you by my friends at Preston Automotive Group. The Bobby Baltimore Bronco has been out on the roads for 14 months now, a white Bronco sport. I love Ford. I love Preston. I love my group out there. I have some great news for you coming up on Thursday. We're going to be doing a ticket giveaway courtesy of Preston's generosity, so be on the lookout. It's honestly super simple instructions, too. All you have to do is follow 2 Instagram accounts. And if you already follow me, you're in good shape. So be on the lookout for that later on. But at Preston, Bobby Baltimore subscribers receive 2 exclusive offers, one of which is a $500 credit towards a new or pre-owned vehicle. All you literally have to do is walk into any of their locations, tell them I sent you, and if you find something you like, if you find a vehicle, new or pre-owned, they're going to give you $500 towards that. Or when you buy 4 tires and you already have a vehicle and you buy the tires through Preston, you'll receive 50% off your alignment. You've got literally a boatload of vehicles to choose from. And I'll take you over to the site right now because this is my landing page. You can click on the link that's included in the show notes. It's also included as a pinned comment in the live chat. They have a site operator. These are the deals that I just told you about right here. You can contact them by filling out this form, or you can go into the inventory section and search by make, model, keyword, categories such as price, vehicle condition, year, make, location, so on and so forth. There's literally, you can break this thing down as specific as you want. So you've got 2,000 to choose from vehicles wise. You'd be joining the Preston team along with the aforementioned Kyle Hamilton, Mark Andrews, myself as a brand ambassador, and many more throughout Baltimore and beyond. Cars cost less with Preston. You can get started today by visiting PrestonMotor.com. You can simply scan the QR code if you want to get started as well, which is located in the upper right-hand corner, or just find the link that's in the show notes or the pinned comment. Again, there's just so much to toggle through and check out. There I am in my old studio. And then I love this scheduling mobile servicing feature that they have. I've told you about that recently. But anyway, that's just one of the many features that I love on the site. I would love for you to go check them out and support them because they support me. And without their support, I would not be able to do this at the aggressive rate that I've been building this channel over the last several years. Well, we keep talking about what's at stake for the Ravens, of course, in this rematch with the Steelers. One thing that we have not seen a whole lot of is, albeit, I should say this, despite Rashad Bateman being in the middle of a career year, and he is indeed having a career year, he and others along the offensive side of the ball have not shown up consistently against Pittsburgh. And you have to tip your cap to the Steelers' defense in a lot of ways. But if Bateman can build off of what he did on Sunday in the Meadowlands, which was his first career multi-touchdown day, that'll go a long way for what the Ravens are trying to accomplish. And that is, again, get the monkey off their back when it comes to their bitter rival. Now, again, Rashad is having a career year alongside Zay Flowers, and these guys are playing great complementary football between the two of them. Zay is closing in on 1,000 yards receiving and potentially the first homegrown Raven to receive a Pro Bowl nod. As for Rashad, 654 yards receiving, and he's tied for 10th league-wide with 7 touchdowns. That is a career high for number 7. He had 4 his previous 3 seasons combined, and he's averaging 17.2 yards per catch. The big play bait label is something that I think a lot of you have scoffed at, and deservedly so. Prior to this season, he had left a lot to be desired. But Rashad is evolving into the player that we all hoped he would become, especially when the Ravens invested in him. Even though it was a team-friendly investment, they did exactly that when they extended him for the next several years this offseason, something that caught him by surprise. Lamar, he's never wavered in his belief of Bate.
Each other, us just trusting the play call, and just connecting with our chemistry. Because years ago, we was out in Cali and we was working, and it was right after the season. And our chemistry was there. You know, we both of us had injuries, you know, in the past, so our chemistry would die off at some point of the season. But this year we've been healthy, and it's just been how it's been going, how it should be going, you know. Just from going back to camp and just off-season work. Like I said, you know, I was training with him in Cali, you know, a couple years back. Us just grinding out here on the field, just seeing what type of player he is. I just knew he gonna be one of those guys. You know, it's just over time it's gonna happen eventually, and it's happening now. You know, perfect time, I believe.
Lamar on Rashad Bateman, who again is starting to stack some games here. Quote, I just knew he's going to be one of those guys. Over time, it's going to happen eventually, and it's happening now. The perfect time, I believe. The perfect time indeed. The Ravens need every bit of Rashad Bateman, especially because a guy that they brought in to really be insurance just in case one of these two were to go down, meaning Rashad and or Zay, knock on wood. Diontae Johnson is really not a part of this puzzle anymore. He and the team mutually agreed to part ways for this week, not in general. I don't know why that hasn't happened yet. A lot of that has to do with the team building side of things and inserting certain expectations and precedents. But clearly, Deontay's not the right fit in Baltimore. And so aside from these two, that leaves, of course, Tylan Wallace. That leaves, Justice Hill has been a great receiving back, hasn't he? He's really, Justice is putting together a heck of a season. Matter of fact, I saw one statistic that the Ravens put out recently about his yards after the catch, and it was like leading the league in some category. Let me see if I can find this real quick because, yeah, here it is, 447 yards after the catch this season. That's second among all AFC running backs. This is another guy that they extended. He's an unsung hero, is Justice, a special teams contributor and somebody who, okay, he's not going to, his numbers rushing the football are not going to pop off, but the way that he's utilizing the screen game, the way that his cuts are so thorough, so vicious, his acceleration, his burst, and just how much of a team guy he is. You got to love, I love me some Justice Hill. So where I was going with that though, aside from Rashad and Zay, you know, you've got the likes of Nelson Aguilar, you've got the likes of Tylan Wallace, you know, not necessarily needle moving players. I know a lot of you are calling for more action from Devontae Walker. Look, I say not so fast on that. It was a great, awesome start to his career with that toe tap touchdown and a beautiful ball thrown by Lamar on Sunday. But there's a reason why Devontae was inactive for 8 different games leading into week 15 against the Giants. And so while the guy has stepped up and played good special teams for this group, I wouldn't expect him all of a sudden to earn some prominent role. He'll earn another opportunity, you would hope, down the stretch. But I think the Giants game was an opportunity for him to showcase what he's about and to start to, you know, add to some building block. It was a building block opportunity for Tez. I'm not quite jumping on the train of just this expectation that he deserves this, he deserves that, he's earned this, he's earned that. I think it's a little premature. What I do know is I think Diontae Johnson, barring something unforeseen, has played his last snap as a Raven. Listen to Shannon Sharp absolutely eviscerate Diontae earlier today on First Take.
Raven, is this situation something or nothing?
No, because he's a Jag. He's just a guy. That's not Derrick Henry. That's not Lamar Jackson. That's not Zay Flowers. That's not Marlon Humphrey or Hamilton. That's not one of those guys. He's a guy. But I just want to know when did this become fashionable? When would this become in vogue? Nah, I'm good. I ain't going to the game.
That's what I mean. That's why I said to you, there's like so much happening, and I don't understand this. Am I getting that old?
Yeah.
And I'm like, these young kids, I can't, but like, that's what it feels like, though.
But we've coddled them so much. They've always gotten what they wanted, Stephen A. They've always been the guy. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, I'm not getting the playing time. I'm not getting the opportunities. I'm not getting the targets. What's the problem? Well, if Well, I'm just gonna go home. I ain't got no ball to take home with me. I'm just gonna go home. I'm not going in the game. I don't know when that happened, how it
And
happened.
announcing it
Yeah, but
in professional football, like
but
this
for
is
coaches,
beyond me.
but for them, for this to get out, it got. I mean, Kyle Shanahan
Yeah.
was quick to the podium.
Yes.
Devontae, he didn't want to go back in there. He said he didn't feel it. He didn't want to go back in the game.
Yeah.
And Deontay, same thing. But you see what happens at this issue in Pittsburgh? Teams will tolerate you until they can replace you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Remember that. That's just not football teams. That's on any job. You
sure.
can be great. They're going to tolerate said behavior until they can replace said behavior. And then they're going to move on.
Yeah, that's right, Unc. And you wonder if it's heading in that direction between the two parties. He said, nah, he's a jag. He's just a guy. When did this become fashionable? Had this issue in Pittsburgh, teams will tolerate you until they can replace you. Shannon Sharp on Deontay Johnson. Deontay remains away from the team throughout this week, even though that suspension had been fulfilled. There was an expectation based on national reports that he was going to be back in the building yesterday, and that was not the case. So Deontay, again, this has become a saga. This has become, I'm sure, nauseating and something that you want absolutely nothing to do with. But the reality is, Shannon is absolutely correct. I don't know where this sense of entitlement has come from Deontay. You wonder what was communicated to him internally prior to that acquisition. But the reality is, this is now team number 3, potentially, meaning Pittsburgh, Carolina, and Baltimore, where he has left on not exactly amicable terms. And that doesn't bode well for a guy who's looking for another contract. Again, if it was all about a contract and proving yourself, and it was communicated to you that you would not walk into a prominent role in Baltimore because of what they have in the wide receiver room, which is the best that they've ever had throughout the Lamar era. Why is it that you didn't stay in Carolina? Sure, you're not winning anything in Carolina this year, but at least you can prove yourself. At least you can get reps. At least you can be wide receiver 1 the way he was prior to his departure leading into the NFL trade deadline last month. So I get the sense that we haven't heard the last of this. I know that you probably hope that we have, but I don't think we have. And for the Ravens, as long as it's not a distraction, who gives a rat's ass? He has done nothing but cause headaches since coming to Baltimore. That's the reality of it. Injury statuses. Here's where things stand going into week 16. Nelson Aguilar, not a surprise here after he reeled in that catch on Sunday and banged his head on the turf. Concussion protocol, DNP on Wednesday. Jalen Armour-Davis, hamstring DNP. Adisa Isaac, man, I really, honestly, JAD, I feel bad for Jalen at this point. He is perpetually injured. Just literally feel bad for that guy. What was he, a 2022 fourth rounder out of Alabama? Logged very little time over his time in the NFL. Adisa Isaac, the rookie out of Penn State, was limited with a hamstring. That has plagued him much throughout his first year in the league. Deontay Johnson, again, not going to be with the team this week. Sanusi Kane, limited, hamstring. TJ Tampa, full participant with an ankle. That's encouraging. I wonder if the rookie will be activated from IR. He's still in the middle of his 3-week, 21-day window. And Ardarius Washington popped up, one of the starting safeties alongside Kyle Hamilton, with an ankle. He was limited. So a lot to like here. I know there's a couple new names in terms of what it looked like coming out of the bye. But again, that's a lot to like, especially when you go take a look at what's going on in Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh's dealing with a lot. TJ Watt was a DNP with an ankle. He injured that game over the weekend. Patrick Queen just getting some rest. George Pickens with a hamstring. He's missed at least, I think it was just one game now that he's missed, but he was a DNP. That hamstring can linger, especially for wide receivers. Larry Ogunjobi, standout defensive tackle with a groin. He was limited. And then Dante Jackson, DNP, along with Justin Fields and Deshaun Elliott, all DNPs with different injuries. Cameron Hayward, their stud defensive tackle, they gave him a rest day. But the ones to watch here, of course, Pickens and Watt. On each side of the ball, game wreckers, Ravens wreckers in their own right. We know the struggles that the Ravens have had trying to deal and contain George Pickens, and we know what TJ Watt has done to this offensive line. We know how this offensive line performs against elite defensive fronts, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Elite defensive fronts. A lot more to learn about this report throughout the week. I find it hard to believe that TJ Watt won't go. His track record speaks for itself. Patrick Mahomes' track record when it comes to injury history speaks for itself as well. He was listed as a full participant in today's practice. Again, he's dealing with an ankle issue. Marquise Brown, former Raven, was listed as a full participant as well. His entire first year with the Chiefs has been marred by injury. And Schefter just adding some context to these notes. The Chiefs conducted a light practice today, and Wednesday will be similar. 3 games in 11 days. Andy Reid's doing what he can to help all his players get their bodies right for this challenging stretch. And of course, the Ravens have exactly that. The Steelers have exactly that. 3 games in 11 days. And for Baltimore, it's Pittsburgh and then Houston on Christmas Day, Christmas afternoon. Could not be a worse time, by the way, for Christmas activities. It's a 4 o'clock kick or 4. Where is it? 4 or 4:30, somewhere around there. My mom's not happy. And spoiler alert, I'm staying in Baltimore for Christmas. My dad's flying down here, and then we're driving back together the next day. My mom doesn't know that yet, but she thinks that I'm wrestling back and forth with the idea. The only reason I'm doing that is solely based on the logistics of the house. My mom is having anybody and everybody from our family, which is awesome. And I'm so sad I can't be there. But anybody and everybody in a small house that we grew up in doesn't bode well for me and Sarah to do what we do on game day. So unfortunately, that falls on Christmas Day, Christmas night for a second consecutive year. We all remember what took place last year, San Francisco, the night that Lamar wrapped up that MVP. Now, there's a lot of non-believers out there, and I get it. This is a team that has left a lot to be desired at times throughout this year, and the self-inflicted wounds seem endless at times. Chris Brockman, who is on the Rich Eisen show as a contributor, is not buying what the Ravens are selling, and he's drawing the ire after I tweeted this clip from this fan base, and I'll show you why coming up right here.
Baltimore in the category of they can win it all, right? You have to. Don't you?
Absolutely.
You do, but he needs, you have to. You can't sit here and say they can't. That you can't do.
Lamar hasn't been great in the playoffs. They have the 5th best odds, so yeah, they're among the top 5 teams that can win it all. But would I be kind of surprised if they did? Yeah, I think so. They're not as good as Kansas City, Philly, Detroit, or Buffalo. That's for sure.
Yeah, the Ravens are 5-4 in conference. They'd be tied in division.
I don't know if they're as good as the Vikings, to be honest.
The Ravens?
Yeah.
Boy, we'd have to see it.
Vikings are better on defense.
Chris Brockman earlier today. How do you think Ravens Nation responded to that? They're not as good as Kansas City, Philly, Detroit, or Buffalo. That's for sure. I don't know if they're as good as the Vikings, to be honest. He then tweeted back at me and said, "You can tag me. It's fine." I didn't tag him. And it's hilarious that everyone thinks September football is the same as December and January. You need smarter followers. That's what Chris wrote to me. I wrote him back. I said I was attempting to spare your mentions by not tagging you. So he thinks that the Vikings are better than the Ravens. He thinks that Kansas City, Philly, Detroit, and Buffalo are all better than the Ravens. I'm okay with 3 of the 5 of those being referred to as better than the Ravens. Kansas City, Philly, and Detroit. Part of the reason why Kansas City and Philly have beaten Baltimore in their head-to-heads this year, and of course Kansas City until somebody beats them in the midst of this potential three-peat, they're better than everybody for my money. Detroit, they smacked them a couple years ago. I know that. and they smacked them good. This is a different Detroit team. They are banged up right now. I think I'm taking the Ravens right now in a head-to-head matchup with the Lions. And as for Buffalo, one of the hottest teams in the league, even though they just lost a heartbreaker to the Rams the other day. But I'm sorry, like, I get it. September football is vastly different, of course, than December and January. But that's not going to stop me from – I'm not discounting what the Ravens did to Buffalo. Sure, it was pre-Amari Cooper and the trade deadline. But I'm not going to sit here and diminish what Baltimore did in front of a primetime audience in September on Sunday Night Football to the Buffalo Bills. That was a shellacking. So we're not going to discount that. We're not going to downplay that. So I'm okay with Kansas City, Philly, and maybe Detroit, even though they're banged up as heck right now, being referred to as better than the Ravens. That's Chris's thoughts. His mentions, even though I tried to spare him, yeah, they haven't been spared. People are absolutely getting after him right now in the mentions. You want to see? Let's take a look. Let me show you what's going on over here. Here's the tweet. Here's Chris. Look at 52 people responded to this one right here. You need smarter followers. This is probably not a great strategy to clean up your mentions. Just saying. Probably not the greatest strategy. Zach says it's hilarious how bad your takes are. Austin says, keep that same energy, Chris. RJ calling him a snowflake. Jordan calls him idiotic. TG says you're a clown. Hush up. Blazian says STFU. I mean, Chris is just getting absolutely destroyed in here. And this is what I was trying to avoid. I actually tried to do him a solid. But then he responded to me. I didn't tag you, brother, so that means you're searching your name. You sound sensitive. You're a moron. You're soft as hell like a bitch. You're a clown. Oh, my God. This is just a total. It becomes a cesspool. This is what I was trying to avoid, Chris. Defer. Didn't work. And you walked right into it, didn't you? To the guest lines we go. I appreciate you guys for being with me tonight. Over 700 of you joining me concurrently across all platforms. If you haven't already done so, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. The Yankees have just acquired Cody Bellinger in a trade with the Cubs. That's a big deal. Yankees decided to pass on Juan Soto, and I would not be surprised if they end up winning that deal when it's all said and done, being the winners of that deal. I mean, $700+ million. I just find that hard to believe that the Mets will. Yeah, I can't get behind that. Is any player truly worth that money? I get it. He's on track to become one of the greatest hitters of all time, but that's just silly stuff. So, zigging while they zag, maybe, perhaps, the New York Yankees? Cody Bellinger. Pinstripes. To the live chat. To the guest lines. You can visit the show notes. I'm sorry. You can visit the pinned comment, which is right now in the live chat, to hit the link to call in. We'll go down to Mexico City to see what's going on with a guy who seemingly has my shit on notification alert, and I love that. What's going on, my friend? Good to see you.
Hey, not much. Hey, just a quick thing. This stream is not sponsored by water and Mountain Dew.
There it is.
So,
now, please, if you could reach out to them on my behalf, I would be very appreciative of that. Thank you.
I would.
What you got for me?
What I got for you? Well, we don't got Jax on the team, so I think we're good on acquiring OBJ.
How about Shannon Sharp just absolutely eviscerating him? If you're just tuning in, Shannon was asked like the significance, if you think this is significant at all, and he's just like, nah, he's a Jag. Deontay's a Jag. He's just a guy.
Yeah.
When did this become fashionable? Had this issue in Pittsburgh, teams will tolerate you until they can replace you.
Not only that, it's that Deontay's generation, if you actually look at it, many of the Gen Z have been coming title. and the few of the Gen Z that are hardworking as us millennials and who they call us boomers. I got called a boomer. I'm a millennial.
Yeah. Honestly, it's always pissed me off because the people that are ruining it for our generations,
Yeah.
there's a select few of them, you know, and that ruins it for all of us. So I've always been frustrated by that. And yeah, I mean, look, Shannon's taking this view from sort of the OG lens, but he's right. And Deontay, for whatever reason, has had a sense of entitlement since the second he showed up in Baltimore, seemingly from the outside looking in,
Yeah.
and felt like he should have had a role. I don't know what we continue to wonder what was communicated, but knowing that the Ravens are as buttoned up as any franchise across the league, I find it hard to believe that he was promised anything. You don't get promised something. You earn something. There's no promises when it comes to Deontay. I get it. Sometimes talent will trump certain situations. Deontay's not one of those guys. I'm not saying he's not a player. Of course he's a player. He's a man beater, a silky route runner. Somebody's got some yak ability, and he still has ability. He showed that in Carolina. But guess what? He's not going to get an opportunity to show that aside from his 5 targets, of which he caught 1 this year because of his actions. And that's the reality of where we stand.
Yeah, you're totally right. And I just remember a phrase of a movie that everybody should watch again. Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
If I recall, the line was attitude reflects leadership. And that was between the discussion between Julius and Gary in that movie. And it was, yes, if you reflect a certain attitude, you reflect a certain type of leadership, with not only to the team but within yourself.
Yep.
So if you're like Lamar, humble, yes, coach, no, coach, hey, coach, I don't like this. Can we discuss this? It's like with respect, with humbleness. If you approach those things, if you approach problems or situations like that, hell, every door is open to you. Not like Deontay, like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. No, even on my team, on my Ravens team, he would have been out, like in San Francisco.
Right. Damn right. Interim coach or not, you're going to kick his ass to the curb. I mean, it's just not. Again, I think the Ravens have handled this situation really well publicly, whether it was player perspective or coach perspective or the statement released by Eric DeCosta. San Francisco chose a different route with Devondre Campbell, and now they're trying to recoup part of that however many $1 million signing bonus that he was brought in for earlier on in the season. They're probably going to do so successfully because he's been suspended, as we know, for the final 3 games of the season. So as much as this is a non-factor, it is because Odell is available right now. And you wonder if, while it wouldn't be needle moving, I think a lot of people correctly mentioned on yesterday's stream the shot in the arm that he can give a team morale-wise, and he was that for the Ravens last year. He was a veteran presence. He was not somebody who took away from what they were trying to achieve, and I was wrong on that. I had questioned whether or not he would be the right fit internally, and he shut me and others up. And so while it would be, I'm sure, easy money to bring him back in here, and it may not be something that's significant enough to have a true impact, it certainly wouldn't hurt. And you have to resolve the Deontay Johnson situation first. And then, of course, while doing all of this, you have to control your own destiny and continue to stack games. And if you win out, you probably win the division.
Yeah, and like I said yesterday, we're bringing OBJ not to be a game changer on the field, but more so, veteran leadership, a voice of reason. Even when Lamar in the AFC Championship, he was talking to him. He was like, "Hey, use your legs, use your talent. Don't limit yourself to just passing." That's the voice that we need. We lack veteran leaders. Lamar is reaching there, but he's not there yet. He's not the Ray Lewis at Reed that we had on the past. So if we bring him back at least for this run, it will help Lamar grow even further for the next years as a leader. Maybe not vocal, but with actions.
Thanks for the call, brother. Great to see you as always.
All right. See you later.
Mr. Mexico City, my guy Manny, a daily caller. It's always appreciated. Sean, thank you for the super chat. No I in team, right or wrong. You are right, my friend. Let's go to Chef. Chef Trez in the building, another daily caller. You are muted at the moment. Good to see you, for my friend. What's going on? Still licking those wounds, or what do you got going on? You licking the wounds?
Bobby, man, don't make me hang up right now. Nothing much, man. Honestly, just looking at some of the film and stuff from the past game. But yeah, I think with this whole Deontay Johnson thing, I actually don't really feel like it's even that big of an issue. I kind of akin it more to like a mosquito, where it's just like, it gets you on
It
your
won't
arm,
go
like,
away, but it's not that impactful.
Yeah, it's just like I mean, we brought him in as extra depth, so the bright side would he would beat out Nelly and become wide receiver 3. I mean, we're not like, obviously that hasn't happened, so it's like I'm not really worried about it. I mean, if he wants to play, he'll play, But I don't know what else to make of the situation. It's not even that big of a deal. So
well, he must have really not liked what went on internally, because now if he had just, I hate to say that, I don't mean this to be like condescending, but had he just shut his mouth and done what was asked of him, now he'd be in a position round 2 against his former team with a division on the line, right? With a division on the line to not only go up against his former squad, which it clearly ended poorly there, but Nelly is currently in concussion protocol. He may not even be available, right? Tylen has been demoted special teams wise. Like, there's a legitimate opportunity to be wide receiver 3 in Baltimore, and it doesn't even seem like he wants it.
Yeah. And there was something that Evan put in the chat earlier where he's talking about, with Nelly, possibly being out with concussion protocol and everything. Would you like to see more of Walker or Tylen? I said both, but it just goes almost kind of like a slap in Deontay Johnson's face that he created himself. We wouldn't even be having these conversations. Maybe still so for Tylen, because anytime he gets the ball, he's like looking for the end zone. But we wouldn't even be having these conversations if you were just more professional in how you conduct yourself and your business. It's a no-brainer. But that's really all I got to say on the Deontay Johnson thing. For this upcoming game Saturday, I'm really feeling like the Ravens are gonna flip the script. I don't think Mike Tomlin is gonna get outcoached by Harbaugh, but I think the players are really gonna show up and lay it all out online.
Yeah, Marlon's thoughts in the media today really just kind of spoke to the sense of urgency that they have, and this is obviously really an ugly look here. It's not a rivalry when the one opponent has won 8 of the last 9. I get it. It's all decided by one score, but that's the reality of it. So, Chef, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for calling in, man.
Yep.
Catch up with you soon. I mean, that is the reality right there. I don't care if it's every game by one score or not, but A-team, Fox Sports A-team, Brady, Burkhardt, Rinaldi, Andrews. By the way, Aaron Andrews, I think probably speak for many of the men in this chat, probably all of our spirit animals. She is an absolute goddess, and she can do no wrong in my mind. With that, let's go down to the district and go to Mr. Gourmet Chef, who single-handedly was, how should I say this? Very, very in on the logistics of last Friday's date. By the way, there's essentially a ghosting that's currently in the middle of happening right now, Evan, and I can't wait to tell you all about it right now as I continue to overshare every aspect of my life. Good to see you, brother. What's going on?
Bobby Bim Bim Bop. What's going on?
Is that how it's pronounced?
I mean, that's how I pronounce it.
Okay. So just to let
Sarah
everybody know.
did some weird, the way Sarah said it, I'd never heard before.
Okay, so she botched it. What a surprise. Love you,
Not
Sarah.
surprising.
So just to give a little peel behind the curtain here, you are a DC-based chef, and you and I were in touch on Friday when I did the stunt last-minute date. I was supposed to make the train down there. That obviously didn't happen. I missed the MARC train, so I ended up driving down in rush hour, and we settled on a place called Anjou in DuPont, and it was unbelievable. So salute to you for the recommendation. She's definitely ghosting me, even though she did finally respond to my follow-up text. But that's neither here nor there. What's going on with you, and what are you thinking about going into the weekend?
Well, first thing I wanted to talk about was this Chris guy from freaking Rich Eisen's show, because he's a perpetual heel, and I think generally his reactions are to get the reactions that he gets, which is just like shitting on every single team except for I think he's a Patriots fan if I remember correctly, but I don't think you can definitively say any of those teams are better than the Ravens. I think the Eagles game we lost was within our reach. We didn't get blown out. We were in it the whole time. The Bills we beat, as we know, very handedly. And what was the other team? The Chiefs, again, we lost by a toe. So I don't really agree with us being definitively worse than any of the teams he named. And I agree with Rich that when you talk about, Super Bowl contenders, you'd be it'd be irresponsible to leave the Ravens off the list. That being said, I'm totally fine with being in that position and being the underdog, and I actually prefer it. It's the first time we've kind of played that role in the playoffs since Lamar, so it's something different. I'm curious to see how that plays out. Yeah, that's all I've got for Chris. With Deontay Johnson,
Look at you on the move now. Where the hell are you going?
Where the hell are you going? I got to go pick up something from this other restaurant. Yeah, I'm still working right now.
All right.
I have to drive. I'm driving to Maryland. I'm driving to like College Park area right now.
Oh God! At this time of night, good luck.
Yeah, I think I might have.
Yeah, there's a shit ton of feedback on your car right now, by the way, too. So give your final thought here, and then I'll jump.
Yeah. The Deontay Johnson thing, like, it's gonna play out like this for the rest of the season. As far as us not playing him, I think Harbaugh pretty much acknowledged that this was a GM tactic to get a comp pick from it. And I think that's fine. I think that comparing it to the San Francisco is, even though it's the same incident where a player refuses to play, it's apples to oranges when you compare, the front office decision as far as keeping him around so we get that comp pick. Now, with that said, if no team signs him next year because they think he's a head case, do we still get what happens there with the comp pick?
It's Sarah and I discussed this earlier today, and I'm going to let you go, Evan. I'm going to give you Evan answer this question just because of the feedback. All right, so safe travels out there. We'll catch up with you soon. We actually had some slides on this earlier, so let me just pull it up right now. Let's see, where was this? Let's move this away. Yeah, so somebody asked Jeff, it was like, hey, if he's cut, does that mean we don't receive a third round comp? And Jeff's like, yes, but they're not getting a third round comp for him. Like, they'd be lucky to get a 7th round comp at this point. So again, there's just not a lot right now. It was low risk, medium reward in the first place, and they're getting 0 reward. And obviously there wasn't any risk that's come attached to this. So anyway, from a compensatory pick standpoint, that's what you should expect. Don't expect much, if anything at all. Chef apparently thinks that he's running the show now, and he thinks he can get 2 hits per show. So, I mean, why not? You make the rules around here. Go ahead.
My bad. Hey, I just want to say, past 2, AFC North hard knocks and stuff. They're kind of, and I didn't have that much of the Ravens in there. Actually, I kind of enjoy it because I like seeing how the other in-division teams operate. But I think this week, especially because we won too, is gonna have a lot more bite to it, a lot more substance. The second thing, I need them to get Keaton Mitchell involved. I'm right now. I'm in my football fantasy right now,
Yeah,
And
is
I've
that the
been
motive?
telling.
I was just gonna ask you. My first question was gonna be why. You know why he's not involved right now, and then you went with fantasy as the follow up. I'm like, oh, okay. So
Listen,
this is for selfish reasons. Then is that
oh hell
correct?
yeah, absolutely selfish,
Okay,
Bobby.
at least you're admitting that.
I have been telling my friends and my brother that's in my fantasy league. I've been telling them since the start of the season when they activate Keaton Mitchell off of IR and then they start getting him into the offense, he's gonna be putting up like 20 something points. That has
Yeah.
not happened yet. And that has not happened. I've been getting clowned for it, obviously, but
Hey,
I'm
I'll
nervous.
admit, in terms of like foreseeing this, uh, and granted, I guess something can change. Injuries can happen. Knock on wood, and he's going to continue to stay ready and whatnot and be a special teams option. But I think they like where they're at right now, and they might not use him at all, no matter
Yeah.
how far they go. That's how great they feel about right now. Man, when you make the investment they did on day 2 of free agency, I get it. But I think Justice Hill's playing so well for them right now. And Rasheen Ali, I think they like him as a teamer that
Yeah.
he's on the outside looking in. And I'm sure he only has one thing to blame. It's not himself. It's the freaking injury that racked him out of the rotation.
Yeah, it's definitely tough because again, Evan and I, we were talking about this earlier in the chat where I was saying like, there were just different formations or different sets that you could have both Henry and Keaton in or Keaton and Justice when Henry needs to, take a play or two off. That you could have him in with that formation, but at the same time, the offense is rolling. I mean, yeah, they still have their mishaps where, they may fumble or, miss a kick or something like that. But I mean, the offense is rolling. The pieces are there. I just want to win my fantasy, Bobby. We're in the
And
fantasy
that
playoffs, man. I'm just trying to win. I'm just trying to win. I've been talking about him as my ace in the hole, and right now I'm not winning.
at least you are open and honest about it, but I'm still going to shake my head, and I'm going to shake my head right on your way out of this show, Chef. I appreciate you for joining in as always. And thanks to all of you for spending the last hour plus with me on your way out. If you haven't already done so, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. But most importantly, click on the link that's included in the live chat as a pinned comment. That is so helpful to me when it comes to my brand sponsors and the way they evaluate our partnership. So what we can do here, and I'm just going to drop it in just in case you don't see it as a pinned comment. I just dropped in a comment in the live chat right now to go check out my landing page at prestonmotor.com. They are a huge, huge supporter of mine. And again, I would not be able to attack this channel the way that I do so aggressively on a daily basis without the support of my sponsors, without the support of you all, of course. So I'd really appreciate it if you can go check that out. So as always, thank you guys for being here. Sarah and I will be back at 12 noon Eastern tomorrow. That is Wednesday. Looking forward to continue to shift gears here and see what's going on as we work our way towards Steelers Ravens. Go check out the best of archive section. It's a new playlist that I have on YouTube where I will condense and shorten like the best of my hour-long live streams. Typically, it's somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes worth of content, and I would love for you to go check that out for those of you who have shorter consumption habits. So with that, thanks for being here, guys. Like the video on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow, if not before. See you guys later.